So as our lives burn in the fire, we must rise up against the liars, because the politicians and the media conspire while our lives burn in the fire. So that was an excerpt from the new Scars on Broadway album. Scars on Broadway, of course, headed by Daron Malakian of System of a Down fame. And today, we will be reviewing this new album from Scars on Broadway, titled Addicted to the Violence, seeing how it pertains to this culture of resistance, because of course every album behind me is interconnected. It is all protest music, revolutionary music. It all shares a similar message, and today we will see how this new Scars on Broadway album contributes to that culture. Like and subscribe if you like the vibe. Check out the Patreon if you want to support the channel further. Definitely check out some of our other protest music reviews. We got Propagandhi, System of a Down, Rage Against the Machine. We also just covered the new album from both Dropkick Murphys and Fishbone, so definitely check those out as well. But today, talking about Scars on Broadway, so I did enjoy their previous album titled Dictator, which, if memory serves me right, it was basically Daron holding off on all these songs in case they ever did put out a new System of a Down album, but that never actually came to fruition, so these ended up being more of just like cool B-sides, songs that he made with the intention of them potentially landing on a System of a Down album, but then he just released them on Scars on Broadway as a way of just getting them out to the world. And honestly, I really dig that album. It kind of scratches that itch of System of a Down, though of course it is still quite different. But now let's go ahead and start off with the review for this new album, Addicted to the Violence, starting off with track 1, Unaliving Spree, because TOS is an SOB. Now again, just to reiterate, we are not reviewing these albums based on musical proficiency or vocal performances. It is strictly just a lyrical breakdown of what these songs have to say about our current times, our society, our politics, current events, world affairs, anything of that sort, anything that pertains to this culture of resistance. So with that in mind, this first track is definitely a more foreboding tune. There's something big coming on the horizon. You better be prepared for it, because it's going to go pow, pow. His words, not mine. You have the chorus, insanity, controlling me, society. The kids are on a unaliving spree. So we have the feelings of being taken over by insanity, but also people in society are also falling victim to that same insanity, going out and doing heinous acts. This could be a nod to mass incidences, but it could also be a more sarcastic tone, saying that the kids are on a unaliving spree, like, you know, those in government are doing things, committing atrocities, committing heinous acts. In the same way that you might say, oh, the girls are fighting, talking about Trump and Elon, he might just be saying that the kids are on a spree. Again, it's a possible sarcastic tone. So that's all I got for track 1. Again, just a foreboding, something's coming, better be prepared for it, otherwise it's going to get you, catch you off guard. However, track 2 is a bit more interesting in my opinion. Track 2 titled Satan Hussein, which is all about a hedonistic power trip. So this song draws a lot of parallels to people that are devoted to a religion, who speak with religious purity, though they themselves are actually steeped in sin. How sometimes those who are most devoted are actually the most hypocritical. Starts off talking about how he's the neighborhood watch with a machine gun in his crotch, watching everything you do. There's the line, this is a revolution, a brand new solution. To change the situation, you must hold the foundation. But again, this is all said within the context of that hedonistic power trip, so even in the chorus we are calling out various religions while also taking copious amounts of drugs. And there is a potential parallel to be drawn, saying that religion is its own kind of drug, the same kind of drug that could get you addicted to the violence. Kind of like how later on in the song it says, thou shalt not unalive people unless you just pray, then it all goes away, in some people's mind at least. Again, calling out the general hypocrisy of some, but if you're gonna be about it, be about it. So track 3, Done Me Wrong, revolves around addiction. It mentions how you need to be forward thinking, how you need to keep your future self in perspective, and how when disaster hits, where will you be in the long run? And that sentiment is repeated even in the chorus, saying you are a user, there is no future, I'm addicted to the violence, what can I say? And there's another line that mentions that when your world is run by a bastard, you never know when shit will hit the fan. accurate. But when you think about revolting, my suggestion is have a backup plan, which is pretty accurate. The world is run by pretty crazy people, and you never know when shit will just turn ugly. So it's always good to have a plan in mind. So moving down to track 5, Destroy the Power. So this is a pretty interesting song as well. There's a line that says, the abuse conducted by the government creates strength for the people, and how the people can take that abuse, take that strength, take that power, and use it to clap back against their abuser. Which I do like the idea of taking the abuse perpetuated by the government and then using that as strength. It gives people a reason to protest, a reason to organize, a reason for people to get active, to go out and vote. But at the same time, that is just one side effect of the abuse. The other is, of course, just all the terrible suffering that is taking place in the meanwhile. And unfortunately, there's many examples throughout history of governments, of course, committing terrible abuses of their people and just getting away with it, not necessarily sparking a revolution or any kind of meaningful resistance if the people are just powerless to actually stand up, which is why it's very important to have the rights that we have, like free speech and the Second Amendment. There's another kind of random line talking about the Ayatollah in Iran and how they are slicing the poppies in Afghanistan, which I did a whole 2-part video series on Iran and the Israel conflict, the 12-day war. Definitely go check that out if you're interested. There's another line about how we are the world champion of the inhumane and how we just embrace the pain. Again, repeating the line, this abuse creates strength for us. Which, again, I think there is some truth, even just looking at the protests in LA. You know, there are lots of people that did get very active when ICE came in on armored horses into MacArthur Park, only for them to, of course, not make any arrests. You know, that's a great use of our tax dollars. Or even just the crackdowns on free speech happening on college campuses. And of course you have all the deportations, the opening of Alligator Alcatraz. All this shit just kind of adds up to, again, a lot of abuse, but also a reason for people to stand up and get active. So again, I like the sentiment of the song, taking that abuse and then turning it into a strength. But I guess my thoughts on this song and some of the others, it's a really good concept, but the execution of it all, it just kind of falls flat on its face. I think a lot of these songs are hindered actually by, dare I say, lazy writing. Like even with this song, it's a really good concept and it's not even a bad anthem necessarily. It's just that for having such a strong chorus, a strong message, the verses don't really push the narrative forward. Anyways, moving on to the next song, Your Lives Burn. Is that actually what that's called? This one calls out the left-right paradigm, how clickbait causes us to engage in these cage fights online and in person. Political bias has run amok, but don't try to cancel me because I do not give a fuck. And this brings us back to the chorus, which is how we started this video. Your lives burn in the fire. We have to rise up against the liars because the politicians and the media conspire while our lives burn in the fire. Again, it's just kind of like a cliche, not really saying anything new, not really pushing any boundaries, just kind of going through the motions, you know, hey, the politicians, hey, the media. But things do improve later on in the song when it says that they are tricking the weak, they are counting the sheep. The rich woke preachers won't let you sleep. They brand all the victims and they conquer us all. United we stand, divided we fall. Again, it's not a terrible message, it's just not really saying anything new. It's just kind of rehashing tropes, using cliches. And honestly, that concludes the review of this new album from Scars on Broadway, Addicted to the Violence. Now sure, there's probably a bit of bias going into this, knowing who Daron is, where he comes from, just the excellent projects that System of a Down put out, again with a hard-hitting message. But considering how many songs on this album try to push a message, even looking at the album artwork, I guess I had pretty high hopes that this project would have a harder bite, sharper teeth. But again, as I alluded to earlier, I feel like the writing on this album, not even just on the political songs, but really on the album as a whole, just is kind of lazy. It just plays off tropes, cliches. It has some good messaging behind it, but the execution of that messaging just doesn't really pack a punch. Again, it doesn't really have a strong bite. So strictly as it relates to the culture of resistance, I actually think that this is one of the lower scoring albums that we've reviewed thus far. I'm going to give this project a C, a 77%. There are good sentiments, there are good messages, they're just not that unique, they're not really saying anything new. Using the abuse as a strength, using that to actually bolster political engagement. But ultimately, even that song, Destroy the Power, while it is probably my most recommended song from the album, even that one is just kind of meh. But if you guys have listened to this album, let me know what you think of it. Let me know what you think of Scars on Broadway in general. Let me know what album you want to see me review next. Definitely check out some of our other videos. Check out the Patreon page. Like and subscribe if you like the vibe. And until then, guys, stay well, stay safe, stay informed, and we will see you on the next video. Later.